So I'm sitting here in my car right now, and an idea popped into my head of how I got my first 3 clients as a copywriter. So I have a couple minutes to kind of break it down, and hopefully you can gain some value from it. So I've started this copywriting journey 67 days ago. The first 20 to 15 days or so were spent just educating myself. That's from YouTube, from books. And I quickly realized that it's actually the books that these YouTubers, the people I'm watching, that's where they're learning from. And so all of my information, all of my ability to storytell, to copyright, to build even online communities, I only reference books now. And so I've written a ton of book summaries on all these books I've been reading. If you want those, steal them. They're in the description below in that school community. It's free. Just take them and then leave. I can't explain how important those books are. That has been one of the cornerstones to my success in landing my first 3 clients. So advancing on from that, what's also very important to understand is your focus. So I just talked about how important, educating yourself is, but I'm someone who really struggles with focus, especially when it comes to reading books and even watching YouTube videos. I don't love, sitting, watching some video for 15 minutes, especially if it's super informative. My attention span is just short, and that's just a reality of the world we live in. And so, you need to understand how to focus. And I just want to explain how extreme I'm going on focus. I have paid probably well over $100 to $200 for, blocking websites and applications and softwares to block certain websites for my ability to use them throughout the day. Things like cold turkey. There's a couple Chrome extensions I've looked into. I'm currently using this app on my phone called Freedom. And I've also ordered a BlackBerry phone. This is like one of your old flip phones, because the iPhone I'm currently filming on, it is taking away too much of my time. I've gotten my screen time down to around 2 hours a day, which is still not the best. I feel very guilty, using my phone, and when the reality is I could be reading, or I could be writing copy, or I could be doing client work. And so it's pulling away from my ability to create and get work done. I'm not saying you need to be working, 8 hours a day every single day, but you need a good 4 hours. And I feel that the phone makes it very difficult. Plus with YouTube on your computer, plus with YouTube or television on your TV, got sports games. I really only want to spend my time being outside, doing the thing I love, which is copywriting or doing social media management. And I'm not sure if I just said this, but yeah, hanging out with like friends, being outside, I guess, is kind of the same thing. And to do that, you really need to take your focus very seriously. And this is going to line up to how I was able to get my first 3 clients. These are the basic pillars you need to understand. Okay? Learn from books, have extreme focus, devote a lot of time to figuring those things out. I can't explain it enough. It's so important to have good focus. So the next thing I want to, touch on is your ability to outreach and track the metrics. This was a big game changer for me. You need to understand that every proposal, every outreach DM, every inbound message you get, meaning maybe someone comes to you, needs to be tracked in some sort of template, on some sort of Google Sheet, in some sort of Google Doc. You need to know every time you send a message where that person is within your follow-up chain. And so what a follow-up chain essentially is, once I send a message, if they respond, then you send your next message. If they don't respond, then you send a follow-up. And so it gets very difficult when you're sending, 100, 200, 300 DMs at sometimes per day to these people. It gets very difficult, and so you need to be tracking everybody that is, both you're reaching out to and who, they're reaching out to you. It has to be tracked. Again, all those trackers, I would really recommend just steal them from the school and leave. It is so important that your metrics are tracked. This also gives you feedback so that you know exactly if your outreach message is working or not. And I do want to talk about open rate, because this is very important. I receive DMs, emails, voice chats. I've received everything. And I've seen a lot of different outreach methods. I've sent a lot of different outreach methods myself. The ones that work are typically the people, one, that have a very good profile. They have videos on the account, a bio, if it's on Instagram or Twitter, that tells me what they're all about. I want to know it's a real person and not just some robot or some black screen profile picture with no posts. I don't trust that, especially if they don't have a bio. You want to have some sort of authority. If it's DMs or direct messages, be sure you have that optimized. As far as the kind of outreach I sent, I was reaching out over on this website known as Upwork. Now, the difference between Upwork and cold DMs, Upwork, you have to pay for the proposals. I highly, highly can't stress this enough. Look into Upwork, because you need to understand these business owners are looking for someone to complete a job. They have put in all the job details. They are telling you they need a copywriter, so you don't have to waste your time sifting through maybe 1,000 people, 1,000 different leads, to come to find out that they don't even need your copywriting service. Something like Upwork just cuts through all that, and it's just straight hot leads. And if you really think about it, it's similar to, paying for Facebook ads, but it's not as complicated. Set up an account, add a profile, add your portfolio, start outreaching. Like, that's how simple it is. So those are a couple of the methods that I've used. As far as my outreach script, the first thing I ask is, I don't even ask, I compliment first. I want to be sure they're engaged via DMs or direct messages if this is cold DMing. And I usually just have a genuine conversation with them and throw in, this 7-step system has done this for me. 7-step system. Most of the time people are curious and they want to know what that system is, especially because of my authority I have on my page. They're able to see what I'm about, and they're just curious and they want to know a little bit more about my 7-step system, which I can get into that a bit more in other videos. This is very surface level, but creating some sense of having that prospect kind of questioning what you're doing is kind of nice. It shows that they're interested, and if they're like, yeah, can you show me a bit more about what that is? Like, what is that? And then if you throw in some results for them as well, that's what's gotten me a couple of calls. But again, I use Upwork. I'm not a huge cold DMing guy. I've received a lot of messages, of people kind of asking me, can you show that whole system a bit more? Can you show me what your cold DMing scripts look like? And so I've kind of scattered, and I know that was maybe a bit confusing, but there's a couple different angles I take. You can do the high value outreach. You can do the kind of nurturing for a couple days. You can just start with a video. You can just start with a bold statement, a polarizing statement. There's a couple different methods, and that's why I mentioned earlier the metrics are so important to track. It's because there's so many different ways you can outreach and get clients. There is no one size fits all. The more unique you are in your outreach, the better you will do. Like, it's whenever because as I said earlier, I receive a lot of direct messages and a lot of proposals and offers and things like that to, want to work with me. The ones that really get me are the ones that I've never seen before. I want the good news or the bad news. That's one I've seen before. I'm like, that's a brilliant pitch. And I was curious, so I said, yeah, pitch me. What is it? And so stuff like that, get super intricate with your outreach messages. Don't simplify it, stand out. That's really all I got. I hope you gain some value. I've been doing a lot of client work, and looking forward to starting this challenge where essentially I'm going to get a client from, it'll probably be like a 30-day challenge where I show you the whole back end side of things, where, what I do day to day, and you guys kind of gain as much value as possible. So if you want to see that, not only, follow me on YouTube, but also check me out over on Instagram and at school. I'll be dropping gems over there, and I think you'll gain some value from it. Not necessary at all, but it really is to just help anyone watching this. So see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.